Tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Kaufmann. Now, let the buzz begin!
Oh my god, you guys. I think I just opened exactly like that last week, but oh my god. Guys, we're here to talk about episode 203 of The Leftovers, Off-Ramp. And this show has gotten off the rails in this episode. I'm your host, Zach Wilson. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me introduce you to my fantastic panel. Sitting right next to me, Kelly McInerney.
Hey, I'm Kelly McInerney. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HollyWeirdo.
Across the table, we have Steve Kaufmann.
You guys can find me at Steve Kaufmann. That's Kaufmann.
And then we have a speechless Roxy.
I don't know.
You're like it near tears.
I don't know. This show F's me up. It was so good. I have so many questions. I'm very excited.
Where is your mind, Roxy?
Gone. Oh,
Look,
I'm sort of like Laurie.
You sort of have to put your mind aside for this show a little bit. I mean, they trade on the most messed up things that they can do. This is this show is the darkest timeline, if you will. Like,
that's
by
very
end
true.
of the day,
Yeah.
that's the Leftover sort of mission statement. This is the darkest timeline.
That's a Community reference.
I feel like it's
Thank you so much.
when you did something you can't live with, how do you live? That's how I felt like the entire episode. When you've done something that you can't live with, how do you live?
Well, it's very much Laurie's mission. You're right. That's absolutely this episode.
For tonight.
Yeah, for
Not
tonight.
the show in general, but tonight.
Yeah.
That's what I just kept thinking the whole time.
Well, yeah. What did you guys think overall of this episode?
I would argue this is the best episode of the series so far.
Interesting.
So far, I think they seem to have something very big planned for us.
I can't remember ever feeling like this about any show ever. It has to be one of the best episodes, if not the best episode.
It's one of, well, just like last season when they highlighted Matt, that whole Matt episode, that was like the best one last season. This one's just a Laurie episode, and I think that's whenever they just like focus on one character's story, they just like really hit you, you know, with everything.
I'm just so invested in it.
Yeah.
Because everyone's doing sort of like messed up stuff no matter what on this show. But if you're looking at it in context of other people, you're thinking about reactions, you're thinking about everyone else. But when you spend 60 minutes just thinking about this one story, just what this one person is thinking, you really get into their mind, if you will, and you get just the intensity of what's going on in their life. And on this show, what's going on in their lives is very horrifying most of the time.
And not only is it that, but the way they're piecing this season together, it's not quite explainable. Like, I don't know where in the timeline we always are until all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is what day this is taking place on. For example, one of my questions of tonight's episode is when we see Laurie washing her car and buying the gum and going to the printing press or whatever those things that she's doing, are those happening one time and then they're reminding us, or is multiple times she hitting guilty remnant people and then washing
That
her
seems
car?
like she's been doing that multiple times.
Yeah, she's just been doing it. This is her death.
And I think at some point she said they never move.
Yeah, she said that to Tommy.
Yeah, like that's why they show that first, but it was something I caught immediately. Like, oh, that's why she's constantly washing her car.
Yeah.
Because she's constantly hitting guilty remnant people.
If it was just one, it would be they didn't move.
Right.
You know?
And then the entire thing, I was like, where is this taking place until we see them go give the letter to Jill and Tommy go meet up with Jill. And then I was like, oh, well, now I know where we are. when we are, how we are.
Yeah.
Not the how part. Still don't know how we are.
But we're within that 3-month gap between where the last season ended and where the first episode of this season took us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Be
mean,
the best way to explain it without breaking out a whiteboard.
yeah, we're not getting every character from last season. We know that. But this is sort of, I think, the last of the filling us in on where we have been, like, while we were away, and now we're going to start seeing everything moving forward from there.
Minus where Liv Tyler's character, where Meg
That's
has
true.
been.
You're absolutely right. I totally forgot about that.
But
yeah.
at least we touched base with her tonight,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
something's changed, happened, different.
Different is definitely a way to put it.
That's the best I can do to string words together tonight. Just like a series of something different, better, worse.
Things.
Well, Roxy, you had some questions about this episode, and I want to give you a chance. Like, what are you what are you thinking? Like, structurally, was that what you were?
Well, yeah, one of them was about the timeline, and the second one has to do with the ending, which we'll definitely get to. But how much they're lying, and how much they're on the same page, and what is true and what is not, and what we're supposed to believe as an audience versus what they're supposed to believe as characters. It's just a lot of what's.
Well, like, I think the big question that we, like, left off, that we, like, watched and then walked in here, and it has you so, like, that's the best way I can describe it. Is Tommy at the end with his speech mirroring what we got right at the beginning from the YouTube video of Holy Wayne. Do you guys think, because this is the big question, so I want to do it right at the top. Do you guys think that Tommy is lying because to further their cause of saving people from the guilty remnant? Just as Laurie said we need to do something, did they come up with this lie, or is this truly something that he was a gift quote unquote that he was given by Holy Wayne in order to, and he's just been keeping it a secret for all this time?
I think whatever Tommy said, he believes. And I think there was a scene we haven't seen yet where Holy Wayne did hug him, because the timeline makes sense that there could have been a scene that we didn't see near Mapleton before Holy Wayne died, that they were both geographically around. And also, when Tommy met Liz in the diner, he said, "I'm sick," and didn't hug her. That's all I have. But I think he believes it. I think Laurie's egging him on.
You're right about the hug, the Jill thing.
The Jill thing, yeah, which is a comment in the chat from Duke Chronic right now. Guess we know why Tommy didn't hug Jill. I think that there could be a strong cause made for both sides right now. What I'm confused about is if we look at the actual episode where Wayne died, he was dead with Kevin. So when in the timeline would he have gone to Tommy? Did that all happen? Or could Tommy have possibly imagined this? Or could it have actually happened? Or is he completely just trying to give the people something, and it not only did it not happen in his mind, but it didn't even happen in life?
Laurie could have planted it and primed him for it, and then planted it in his brain as a failsafe. That's a possibility as well. It doesn't seem entirely unrealistic that it just happened and we didn't see it.
You know, as I watched the episode, I read it as Tommy was just straight up lying to further the cause. And it's like a sort of a white lie, because they are using what they've learned about these cults. And like Tommy with Holy Wayne and Laurie with the Guilty Remnant, they both have a very intimate, deep knowledge of how these cults attract people and bring them in. And when I first watched it, I read it as Tommy is and Laurie came up with a plan, and this is how they're going to save people by doing a little bit of what the cult does.
Right.
But the more I think about like what happened in that episode, where like how much Tommy was just broken, when he's with when he flips out at Laurie and he's just saying like they know some of their stuff. Like he sides with them at some point. I forget the actual quote, but it was that was a huge moment.
Right, when he says that they understand, they have a point to be made.
Exactly.
It was a big deal. I mean, this is where, though, if you put aside whether they are lying or whether they are telling the truth, whether this happened or not, now this is just my opinion, but either way, it's kind of effed up what they're doing, because essentially they're pulling people out of one cult, and we're trying to just release them into the world, back in the world we live in, which wasn't working, so they're trying to create another cult.
Or maybe they just want to hug them and then let them be into the public again.
But
maybe they just need that little...
Their goal is to release them into the world successfully. And I think in our world, the world we live in, where most things can be explained by science and there's very little unexplainable, people who search for that meaning and then find a cult and then can get pulled out of that cult can be reintroduced into regular life, because everything can be explained. In this world, a bunch of people died, a bunch of people disappeared, nobody knows why.
Yeah.
So that emptiness is in everyone, and some people turn to cults, and even when you try to pull them away, and that emptiness is still there, and that's what we had discovered. So they're figuring we can use this tactic to get people out of the guilty remnant and make them healthy members of society, because why not? Because the guilty remnant's bad?
Well, it could be argued that it's sort of like they see it as a halfway house, or like the
guilty remnant light.
The what do you call the melatonin or whatever that you give to heroin addicts as they come down. You sort of
methadone.
Yeah, methadone. Thank you.
Melatonin's the thing that helps you sleep.
As I said it, I'm like, that is just totally the wrong thing. But I'm hoping someone's gonna fix it for me. It is a piece of the drug. Like it is a drug in itself, but it is a way to step you down from heroin. And so this is sort of like they're gonna convince you that you're okay and then push you out the door.
And I think what they're doing is similar to what religion does for a lot of people, which is they have questions that can't be explained and they just give you an answer. So you go on about your life without that emptiness inside of you. But they're knowingly...
Yeah, it's a very hard thing to discuss, because on the one hand, whatever makes you be able to wake up in the morning, then you kind of have to be for that. Like whatever that is, whether that is being part of the guilty remnant, whether that is being part of Wayne's society or whatever you want to call that, whether that is now being part of Laurie's, or whether that's doing what Kevin does and moving across the country. You have to be able to wake up in the morning. That's got to be priority one in some senses. But when what you're doing is affecting other people, like the guilty remnant, where they're going and they're pushing their society, their cult onto other people, that's a whole next level of things. So I think it's a thin line with Laurie here. Yet if this is a lie, an elaborate lie that she made up and people follow it, and now she has this book and she becomes this leader and she goes out and she tries to recruit people, it's pushing that line.
It's circle again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Going back to the cult again. Yeah.
And it's ultimately because there's something empty inside of her that she'd rather put herself into that work than just try to fix.
A lot of people in the chat are talking about the fact that they said that there's a cost and we didn't see exactly what that cost is yet.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any theories on that?
Well, Tommy's sort of starting to lose himself, and that's sort of just where we put him in our minds as a character, that he was losing track of himself. Holy Wayne was very much like this, I am the most important person. Like, he was so lost in the character of Holy Wayne.
But we also saw him when he's already successful. Like, this is the beginning of Tommy.
That's what I mean. Like, Holy Wayne, we saw, like, after he's been doing this for a while, and he was so in this, like, I am the holiest of the holy. You could argue that that's him sort of, like, starting to lose it and lose sense of himself as a person. And if that's the cost, if Tommy's just losing sense of himself as just a person who has wants, who has needs for himself and not for just, like, healing.
Holy Wayne's cost might be that, but what I take Holy Wayne's cost as is the fact that he died. And he died in a brutal, horrifying way. And he fulfilled and helped many lives, supposedly, but his life was not a life of fulfillment.
Almost a karmic balance. Like, he takes so much bad that the worst will happen to him.
If you watch any of those shows that talk about magic, there's always a price, you know, whether it's Once Upon a Time or any vampire show, whatever it is, to everything you do that you're trying to help, there's always a negative price. That's how magic or things
balances out.
And I also think Holy Wayne's price was that he, like many prophets or shamans, he'll never know if he's just crazy and he has no powers and people are just buying into whatever he's selling, or he's actually this.
Well, a lot of people have pointed out in the chat roll, Michael Monroe and Duke Chronic, that we've seen him hug Laurie.
Okay, what's interesting about them pointing that out in the chat is they're saying that he's hugged Laurie and Laurie is fine. I would beg to differ that Laurie's fine. I think that she's quite a wreck right now. I think that she's no longer guilty remnant, but I think that we witnessed
pain right there when she attacked the publisher.
Yeah, not only that time, but so many other moments of pain.
She really shouldn't have took that meeting. I think he would have like one sentence you can... someone I know is possibly dead. I have to reschedule. That's one sentence. You can get out of that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot easier to say that to an assistant than to the head of this publishing house that you've been dying to meet with.
Yeah. Because if that person, I think in Laurie's mind in that moment, it was like, if this person is dead, then they're dead, and it can wait until afterwards, and then I'll deal with it. Which is a little messed up, but I also kind of understand.
No, I understand that too, but not if it'll make me bad in that meeting.
Look, if she's dead, there's nothing you can do that she could have done from there. By leaving that meeting, the only thing that she could do, the truth is, the best thing that she could do in theory, we know how the meeting went, but is to go in there, sell the hell out of the book, and get the story out there.
And donate proceeds or whatever it is. Another question of mine in this moment, I had so many, was who was that phone call from?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too.
Is that Tommy?
That had to be, I assume,
or one of the guilty
remnant. One of her, the innocent remnant.
Yeah, I assumed it. That's a good name, the innocent remnant. I assumed it was one of the group as well. Because they're all connected, and like it was sort of similar to AA, where I imagine one of them was her sponsor.
When she picked up the phone, she said, "This is Laurie," as in she didn't have this person's phone number.
But
the only people whose phone she's given out all have her number programmed in. I would assume she would have all of their numbers programmed in. I don't think that's the last of it that we've seen.
Also, if you take someone out of a cult, there's a good chance you're their next of kin. That it could have just been an emergency worker.
So recent.
She could have. Well, I mean, this would if they just found the phone and called, but I guess she would have seen the number then.
I don't know. I don't know if she programs those phones into her phone. I think she just gives it to them and gives them the option to call whenever. She's not going to save it like, oh, this is your name. You know, I feel like that's why.
That's a tiny thing. It might. Sometimes you don't have the number.
Even Tommy was like, they're all at home freaking out about it. So
I just wonder if there's more of a story there.
That's fair. That's a fair question, though. In a show with a lot of questions, like just the simple of like who called you,
she had quite the
could
conversation.
Be very meaningful.
Yes, no, how are they? Like it was a little bit of a conversation. It wasn't like it didn't seem to me as if a paramedic had called her from the road because she was listed as something. It seemed like somebody that she might have known.
Yeah. So like, what did you? Well, the book and the publisher.
The book called Guilty.
Yeah. I love the idea of Laurie publishing the book. See, that's the thing I could say. Like, maybe she's not. I'm just thinking about the hug and like the book and everything. If we think that the hug is real, maybe was Laurie so messed up it was like it couldn't take it all. It just took a lot of it.
Well, can we step back for 1 second? Because I don't even know your guys' opinions on this. Do you guys think that Holy Wayne's hug was real?
No.
I think real as in magic.
Real as in it actually helped people, not placebo.
Oh. Well, as a placebo, I think it helped people.
Yeah.
But you don't think as an actual...
No, but
it did not magically cleanse their soul.
Because didn't Tommy get hugged too?
No, he refused it in season 1.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, we never saw him accept the hug.
But we did see Nora accept the hug.
Yeah, we saw Nora accept the hug, and then she was very much doing better. We saw the senator in the pilot accept the hug, and then he felt his life was less burdened.
So does it make a difference to us whether they're telling the truth or lying if we don't believe that Holy Wayne had powers anyway?
But powers... We can't explain why the hug helped some people and probably didn't help other people.
If you're calling it placebo, you can...
Yeah, I'm calling it placebo, but if the placebo works...
You're saying does it matter if he saw Wayne? or not?
Does
or...
it matter if he's lying to us or not if we don't think that Wayne actually had powers to even give?
If he's lying to us about a lie.
Well, I'm interested
Right.
in... It matters to me in the sense of, like, I'm wondering where Tommy is mentally.
That's what I
where
feel.
And Laurie, because it has implications to that as well, and what their plan is. Because if they believe that Tommy is it's Holy Tommy now, then that puts them in a very different space than if they believe that it was all fake, but that they can use it, and there's a psychological placebo effect to healing these people. That's always how I read it. And I want to believe in, like, sort of the mysticism of the Leftovers. Like, I constantly go back and forth on whether I want to believe, like, all the stuff like Holy Wayne, if it's real, or I want to just, like, it really was just the departure and nothing else is magical.
I write them off as known unknowns.
If we do believe it's real, then it makes a huge difference whether he's lying or not.
Yeah.
If we don't believe it's real, it's a testament to their character, but it won't necessarily affect the rest of the group.
Yeah.
That
It
makes
still
sense?
would, like, because the placebo for them, because they'll believe it's real. The rest of the group will believe it's real.
Well, they're going to believe it's real
Yeah.
no matter what, if they do.
I,
Is that, are you
but
guys with
but
me
if
here?
you're speaking of a greater good, if bringing people in and having them hug Tommy and then getting them into the regular world stops them from driving their car with their whole family into trucks, for the greater good, it's better, and that could be what Laurie, if not Tommy, decided on.
Yeah.
I also think Laurie wanted to go completely straight and publish the book, and then Tommy with the hug was a last ditch. That she didn't want to do that.
Until something went wrong.
Until she couldn't get that book published. And then she even turned to him and said, "We got to show them something,
Yeah.
because we can't keep the lights on. We can't even keep a roof over us."
So this was the impetus for
Yeah.
explaining, but it wasn't just an elaborate lie they made up in the car.
I think that's why I think he believes it, and I think she may have egged it on, or maybe even implanted it and primed it.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure. I need to see more, because, like I
Same.
said, in the moment I thought that they came up with the lie on the way and, like, they put together an elaborate lie, but the more I think about it, I think Tommy absolutely could be broken enough to believe that himself, and Laurie could just be using him as a tool, basically, to save these people.
Michael and Jesus in the chat said that he hugged his mom after the police thing. So maybe now because this whole episode she didn't get hugged until after she was released from prison or jail.
That is an interesting thought.
So maybe
That
now we'll see a different Laurie.
Also, we don't think that they've ever hugged from the moment that
they
they see
not?
each other on the dock.
I mean,
I don't think we've seen it.
If he believes that his
Right.
hugs are magic, like, he's not gonna go hugging people.
So maybe she says, maybe we give them something, and he says to her, I haven't told you everything. Well, I don't know.
Either or.
There's definitely a lot there. Let's take a step back and talk about Susan, the woman that
She did an incredible job tonight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All the acting in this episode was spot on.
But I didn't really trust her though. Once she stood up, when they came in, the guilty remnant, when she stood up, I thought it was like her fault. I didn't think she was scared. You know, I thought she was scared because she was.
It looked like she was going towards the bright lights. Like, she wanted to stand up, not because she was afraid, but because she missed something, because she wanted something.
So
I
I never really completely thought she was completely okay, like the rest of the people that we didn't really see. So, yeah, I'm surprised that she did that huge thing, but also not surprised because I was still waiting for her to do something.
I was almost like surprised. Like, I'm like, I don't know if you let her drive the car. Like, this is
Yeah,
like a person who's just like, effectively she's just out of a psychiatric facility. More likely, that's in my mind how you have to treat her, and those people are very sensitive. So giving them control over a moving vehicle, as we see, can have bad results, because they're still in. Because even when you come home, you're still in recovery for years.
But I think part of how Laurie failed was when reintegrating didn't have them talk to each other. Like, the husband talked to Laurie of, like, how do I keep her where it's like, you should be asking your husband, or you should be asking your wife, what made you leave?
I think that's something
Not was it me? What made you leave? Can we work through this together?
I'm not a therapist or a couples therapist, so I don't know how those tactics work necessarily. But I think that she did try to get them to communicate with telling the wife to tell her husband that, all of that. But what's the most interesting part about this story, for me at least, is that Susan doesn't go back to the guilty remnant. She doesn't leave him, and she doesn't leave them.
But maybe that was what she was supposed to do with the guilty remnant. Maybe that's why they wrote that note any day now, so she could get that, because that's another level of the guilty remnant. Once they escape.
wow.
That you'll always
That's
be
what I
us.
thought.
That's how I took it too.
Yeah.
I didn't take it that way at all.
Yeah,
because I don't think the note was for her. I think that the note was for Laurie and the entire group. But because I didn't feel like they were writing going over to her. They held it up. Laurie crumpled it up, threw it down, and she happened to pick it up.
I don't know. I felt like he was looking at her a lot.
Disappointed.
I read it, and maybe now that you guys are saying this, like maybe I read it wrong. I thought it was for her, that the idea, like, any day now you're gonna crack.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna be back any day now.
I felt like that to all of them. She was just the most recent recruit, but these were all recruits. We don't know. We said people coming in all the time. He was just grabbing people. So I think it was to all of them any day now. But I think that when she saw that, it was a reminder. She didn't want to go back. She didn't want to keep living. How do you live when you've done something that you can't live with? And her answer was that she couldn't. And she also couldn't leave her family, so she took them all. She took herself, she took her kid, and she took her husband.
Do you think it's directly related to the idea that that we were presented with for the first time in this episode, that the guilty remnant believes that this is the end of the world? Not this is like we're left behind. This is the rapture. Those were the only people that went up. I think is how I always read it. Or I saw one suggestion online that said, like, or is it that they believe that this is all fake? That none of this world is real.
I don't think I agree with what Laurie said. I don't think that's what all of the guilty remnant think.
Okay.
I don't think that they all sat down and wrote, "We are the guilty remnant because we believe that this is the end of the world." I don't think they have a mission statement like that.
Well, that was part of what made the guilty remnant unique, is that they don't.
Right.
Because they literally don't talk.
So I feel like that was how Laurie felt. I think so.
That's why it wasn't in her book and she couldn't explain it, was that they don't have a mission. They just take people who have that emptiness because of what happened.
It's sort of like the evil Unitarians.
Yep.
It's like, you don't need to have a specific belief, but if you believe in our basic tenets and...
They're nihilists. They believe none of it matters. They believe none of it matters today. And a large majority of them feel that way because the rapture was 2 years ago. But a lot of them, just for whatever reason, it doesn't matter anymore.
Sci-Fi Monkey in the chat says, "I read the note as any day now there will be a second departure." Did anybody else?
So did Michael.
I hope not.
I don't think so.
I don't want a second departure.
No.
I mean...
Well, that doesn't mean there will be one, but it means that they believe there will be one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I could see it being interesting at a far down the line point in the show.
But less so than that, do you think that could be what they were talking about, the guilty remnant, when they wrote that?
Any day now.
Didn't we see that last season?
I don't think so. It just that doesn't... Because if
they imply it, but they don't ever say it.
Because a second one implies that there is more to do, like that there is more to come, like more to prepare for. If there's another one coming, there's a reason to keep going, because who knows what's next. If it was just the departure as a singular event, then that really means that there's nothing left to do. There's only this. But if there's another one, then anything could happen.
I think I agree with what you're saying, and that's why we have groups like MIT and all of them that are looking into this, because it is relevant. But just about these specific words, any day now, I think last season we saw something that said, it's almost time, or something along those lines, from Patty to Laurie. right before the fire and
the bodies and
the bodies. Every
like,
time before something we got, so maybe they're planning something.
They're planning
that's
another
what
big
I
event
think.
like that.
Because they definitely.
Also,
Somebody said that there's definitely an upper
Yes.
echelon of the because look at
Michael
Meg.
Monroe.
Yeah. Look at Meg. There's somebody in charge trying to plan big things to just mess the public up more, to make them
Regardless of how scattered it seems, and they even said it's very scattered. Also, Tommy at some point after his run-in with Meg, which I'm sure we're going to want to talk about.
oh yeah,
Oh, what are you talking about? No biggie.
After his run-in with Meg, he said there's maybe they know something. Like even his mind kind of got turned to, I think they know, like they're onto something. There's something they're not telling us. Maybe they know what happened, because that's what everyone wants to know. And people are either, and at least my reading of the whole show is that they are never going to tell us.
No, I don't think so either.
Can we talk about that
Let's
Meg
go.
part for a second?
You mean the rape?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we got Tommy. He got caught and then kidnapped. Tommy got sloppy.
Well, the reason he got sloppy is because he was getting these people so quick. You could tell earlier in the episode when he came back with that guy after knowing him for such a little amount of time. He saw somebody across the room who, like,
Just zoned
out. And I felt like maybe she reminded him of because the
Jill?
way he, No, Christine. Because the way he looked at her,
I could buy that.
was like a longing, I miss somebody kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's true or not, but that's how I felt. And so I felt like something came over him and he went over there because he wants to help. And then, oh gosh, I mean, it could have happened with anybody, but the poor thing.
He got sloppy, and that's not the place to get sloppy.
Right.
They stone people.
Yeah.
You don't want to get
They
captured.
stone
by
their own.
And he was at the Hackensack one, I think, right? And Meg was a part of Mapleton, so there's definitely connections.
Yeah.
Yeah,
somewhere.
I mean, it's interesting because there has to be some communication between the Patties and like where Meg is now, where they are allowed to talk within, because she talks in front of other people that are
Who,
sort
Meg
of
or Patty?
Like I think the Patties. Oh, Meg is
this week.
Or
Patty
people-
did in front of Laurie,
And she had taken other people to that diner as well.
Yeah,
and
like-
spoken in front of them.
there's a certain level where you're allowed.
Also in the book they talked, which I like this change.
Okay.
In the Leftovers book they all talked. And
Well, the
like,
books-
this change,
The book's out the windows now because we're
absolutely.
past it.
Yeah.
But let's get to the big scene, because after the kidnapping, Tommy wakes up, and as you said, it is at least it begins, and this there's some interesting quotes that I read from Damon Lindelof that we'll get into in a minute. I want to hear your opinions first.
It's a list of questions that I have. Here's my list of questions. Number 1, does Meg rape everybody that they find that they have a problem
I think-
with? Number 2,
Sorry.
no, just because
said
they're
two.
all
Yeah, yeah.
correlated. Number 2, does she know if Tommy actually has Wayne's powers? Does she know that, and she's trying to put Little Wayne in her?
Lil Wayne.
Lil Wayne. She wants Lil Wayne in her.
That's
All right.
That's what I call
Roxy,
Bruce Wayne.
Number 3, is this to just get back at Laurie? Number 4, what is Meg? What level is she? Who is she? What is she? What's happening here? Those are my questions.
I think she's the head of the Mapleton chapter, but there's no Mapleton chapter. Maybe
I think that,
I don't think it's
she's-
just to get
I know.
back to Laurie. I feel like there's some
She knew-
definite ulterior motive.
Is she giving him a disease? Is she giving him something, or is she taking something?
I don't-
Or does
I
she
don't-
just want to sleep with him?
I don't think she's taking some. To me, this is sort of a. I don't think she is going for a Little Wayne. That would fly direct. I mean, at least as far as we know it, that would fly directly in the face of what the Guilty Remnant has stood for. Because Holy Wayne is very much the opposite. He's like, I can make you feel better. The Guilty Remnant is, you should feel nothing.
So even if is she going for a little Tommy?
I don't think that's, to me, that was a. I'm trying to figure out in my head like the why, but it was an indulgence in a worldly pleasure that she is not normally she does not normally take, similar to Patty going to the diner. Remember, they just eat like gruel and like oatmeal, like whatever. And Patty went to a diner and ordered a meal.
So do you feel like the men outside didn't know that she was in there sleeping with him? Because I feel like the men like chained him up so that she could bang him so that they could leave.
I think it was a power play. That in the event that he has whatever Holy Wayne had, it's like, hey, I might have it too. And an indulgence of, hey, he's here, why not? And a mind F of screw Laurie and I'm going to literally screw her child. I think it's a combination of all three.
I don't think they know that he has the Holy Wayne power. Mm-hmm. I think it's something else. They're planning something else. Any day now, you know?
Yeah.
Also, Mike Cap in the chat is saying the rape was like all rape's about power. Mm-hmm. And I do like that.
Yeah.
I do like that all rape is literally about power. So that she's taking his power.
It
might not be that literal.
I think that there's something more to this here. I really do. And it was also Tommy's reaction to it was very interesting. The way he reacted to having his face almost lit on fire was the way I was expecting him to react to the rape. But he didn't.
Yeah, I mean, he's frightened because he thinks that she's gonna kill him, and she wants him to feel that way. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what he thinks is gonna happen when she starts having sex with him.
Well, you said that she was gonna chop his balls off, which is something that I thought maybe at first.
That would have been equally as disturbing, actually.
Because they're not, they are fighters sometimes.
I mean, you could argue that it was to make what she did, like the life threat, even harsher, because to put somebody into what is just biologically the highest form of pleasure, like having sex, it's like it activates all the pleasure sensors in your brain, and then dragging him out and throwing him into the ground, throwing gasoline on him and making him fear for his life is sending him deeper into a dark place. If they think that there's a chance he could come back to the guilty remnant and be part of them, because he does seem to side with them at some point, that could just be them trying to mess him up more, similar to how they just watch you until you join, like what happened to
because it's
Meg.
all about dependency with them, that it's
I wonder, or if it's just the way to just like just throw him off his game. I
think
or if Meg's just taking advantage of the situation for her own pleasure. I'm not sure. It's hard to say without knowing where Meg stands in her life.
I don't think we can look past the fact that any woman knows that when you have unprotected sex, you can get pregnant.
Yeah.
Even if you have protected sex, you can get pregnant. She doesn't, I don't think she's going to stop and like put a freaking condom on him, even if she's on birth control, whatever it is. I feel like I don't know, something, even if she's not intending to do that, she sleeps with him and he comes inside her.
Yeah.
That's what we saw.
Well, the only thing that I'll say to that is that the guilty remnant don't seem to think about
repercussions
or the future.
Because if
they want the one thing that they have wanted that we've seen, their one goal is to just mess people up. They want to force them to look at their loved ones. They want to ruin Remembrance Days, Heroes Day from season 1. They want you to deal with your biggest, darkest fears. And that's where she sort of finds him. And where she's really placed Tommy is like Mert is killing him, I think would be his biggest fear at this point, because he doesn't really have anything. There's no, like, I don't know that even Laurie is like someone he would necessarily die for.
You don't think Tommy would die for Laurie?
I'm not sure that he would.
But for Jill?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe for Jill.
I think,
all right. I'll say that.
I think Jill's the only person in his life that he just unconditionally loves without any BS.
That was a really touching scene.
Yes.
With Laurie wanted to go so bad.
And Sci-Fi Monkey just asked, can we talk about Australia? Actually, someone on Reddit whose username is Bored in Cubicle, which is one of my favorite Reddit usernames, transcribed the news report that was on the TV in this episode. And it was resurrection. That's the claim in Australia. As witnesses described a man previously believed dead emerging from a cave in Wanneroo outside the city of Perth. There's a witness. The man identified as David Burton, and then the TV shuts off. In the first episode, Tower Man, or what's his official name?
Jesus, Moses, Tower Man, Santa.
Jesus, Moses, Santa, Tower Man also addressed a letter to a David Burton in Perth. So there's a David Burton who apparently can't die in Perth, Australia.
And not only that, but we have a friend who's going to Australia.
Yeah. We have a guy.
Kevin Sr.
Yeah, Kevin Sr.'s going down there. Even the book publisher talked about
that guy in Australia that can't die.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Whoa!
I just remembered about a scene that I can't believe we haven't talked about too. The computer scene. That was my favorite scene of the entire episode.
Oh yeah.
So I just thought about it.
Well, Steve got ahead of us.
Sorry.
With
Somebody said talk
Australia
about
thing.
Australia. I was like, that's
yeah.
a quick one.
When she
That's
stole...
my job.
Oh, sorry.
No, I know. Sorry, it just popped in my head, and I remember that was crazy. Australia stuff's cool too, but man, that computer scene was the most badass thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, she knows that he took it. I actually thought that it was going to turn out that the guilty remnant took it.
So did we.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Um,
But she was sure. She was positive, and she was right.
Yeah.
That when she
Badass.
walked in, she pulls up the car. She goes in. I was like, crazy lady. It's not in there.
Boom.
She knew something we didn't.
That
Yeah.
was impressive.
And then she
was
killed
so
two
cool.
guilty remnant.
Two that we saw,
She
I think.
revved first.
Yeah.
She let them know she was there. It was an amazing scene.
I mean, I think part of her probably wants them to move.
I think so. That's why she's revving.
Yeah, that's why she's
Yeah.
like...
Yeah.
It's not threatening, like, oh, I'm gonna go. It's like,
Yeah, because like she
please
could more
move.
efficiently pick off guilty remnant people. It's a matter of like, no, I want these people to move.
Yeah.
To like break them of this like thought that nothing matters.
Yeah, that was... I could not believe that she broke into that house, which she has a lot of experience doing from being guilty remnant, and grabbed the laptop and left. This is a different Laurie. This is she's using her skills that she learned, but this is a different human being.
Yeah.
Crazy.
There's a lot. This was an insane episode, and like not insane. It was insane because of these people and what they're going through. Any final thoughts on this episode or any of the themes in it before we move into some predictions and stuff?
I think Laurie's out $850 for that dress. She beat up a guy in it, then wound up in jail. I think she can't return that.
Unless she might have kept the tags on it. So
Yeah, you
still,
never know.
it's pretty good.
It was an office fight. Like she didn't,
Fair
there's no.
enough.
I didn't see any blood. Yeah.
My last thought on Laurie is there's this one quote she says, you didn't make her leave, they did. And I thought that was very interesting because I thought she was going to say you didn't make her leave, she left herself. But she is so gung-ho about the fact that the guilty remnant are doing this, not individuals. I think that's going to come into play later on.
Yeah, I mean, she's very much subscribing to the idea of the guilty remnant, or the members of the guilty remnant as victims, not like it's not that this person did something wrong. It's like this person is a victim, and you need to help them.
Absolutely.
It's not you don't punish them. You don't just like with any person that's dealing with like if they fell into if a rape victim or a drug addiction to a certain point. That's like in certain cases, but you don't blame the victim of crimes. Like you have to help them to be better.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And with that like light note, let's move into some predictions.
Your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
All right, so next week we're going back to Miracle.
Oh.
We saw in the preview. What are you guys thinking?
I'm excited again. They're messing with the timeline here. When the earthquake happens, we're now going over to see what happens with Nora. So when Kevin's not there and all of that and the palm print, Kevin's going to have to work hard to get his way out of this one. Because that John dude is out for blood.
Yeah. I have a prediction just of the guilty remnant. I didn't see the preview for the next episode, but a future prediction.
Yes.
No.
I feel like that they're planning something big again. Like that's what Any Day Now is. I
Yeah,
said that
no,
already,
I
but
like
I'm just
that- I
that's my
like-
official.
Any
Yeah, I like
day
that
now we're
prediction.
going to take down Miracle?
Maybe, yeah.
Or I don't...
They don't seem to be getting attempting to go in there though. Yet we
but
haven't seen.
We've seen previews of somehow people getting in there or kind of getting in there.
Yeah.
I'm sticking to my prediction that Kevin gets exiled, and then on his way back in, he creates a hole that lets that like Bonnaroo that's outside of there get in, and then it destroys it.
Burns down another town.
Yep. Every season, they're just gonna burn down the town.
I think next week we're gonna see Kevin really struggle with the idea of whether to turn himself in or not, and what effect that would have, like, because he's new to this town, and I think if he went and was honest with the police, like, he might be okay, like, just about his sleepwalking and like pain pills and everything, and that, like, after everything that he's been through, afraid of like being found, and that's why they found his handprint. As a police officer, there's a good chance that his fingerprints will come up.
Definitely.
Oh, they're definitely coming up.
Yeah.
But I think even if he was open and honest, I think he'd be screwed.
Yeah. It's a very strict town.
Yeah, it's
I
a
don't
very
think John
sensitive
trusted him to
town.
begin with.
Yeah.
And especially, do you think he can hold up to the kind of scrutiny of saying like, "Oh, I sleepwalk," and not bring up anything else that would come off as shamanistic-y and, as far as John's concerned, snake oil salesman-y?
I mean, no. I mean, that's like sleepwalking is a medical disorder.
Yeah.
It's not a mystical thing. It's just like it's like a side effect of drugs, of medicine that you're on. My bigger prediction overall, I think that, like, down the line, I think we're gonna get the guilty remnant, like, led by Meg, and whoever else she is, like, in her, like, inner circle of the guilty remnant is going to be coming after Miracle as this, like, beacon of hope, because Miracle is the beacon of hope, and they're trying to quash all hope. I think they have to be coming after Miracle, and the crusade to stop the guilty remnant is also going to bring Laurie and Tommy through the town as tourists, and that's when we're going to get a family reunion that will wind up being explosive.
I think maybe she'll be like pregnant and do messed up stuff, and they're like, we can't hurt her, she's like, that's why
Meg?
Yeah.
Also,
that's why they want to get her pregnant, so it looks like it's
Also,
kinda
I do have a theory. I think Meg is already pregnant,
Might be.
and she just slept with Tommy for another, like, another layer of a mind F. To, like, this yo baby. When it could or couldn't be.
That's interesting. I love that, because
Sounded
the
like her.
timeline holds up that, like,
likeness.
if Meg is pregnant when now, like, like Miracle current day, then she comes in, like, she would come in, like, what, 5 months along?
Why?
We're not sure when Tommy happened in relation to the greater timeline.
but several months, and in theory, and that would, like, allow her to show.
I'm not saying that it's incorrect, because I think that it's a really good theory, but why would Meg already be pregnant? Who did she sleep with?
Someone else.
I think maybe it's Tommy's baby.
That's Steve's theory. He has to
My theory is
your
that
theory.
my theory is that it was a part of a greater plan for her to just be pregnant for some reason.
Got it.
And then it was just another guilty remnant guy.
That would
Got it.
that would only really serve a purpose, though, if they were trying to take Tommy down, and he wasn't wholly Tommy yet.
I don't feel like the guilty remnant are boning each other, and I think they're not allowed to, probably. And if she did, I don't think they would reward her by letting her be, like, the head of the organization.
Yeah.
I think she was already that. I think she is the head of this organization somehow.
Yeah, well, that's why I think it was her, it was her version of the diner, because she was very much in private and, like, looked like she was enjoying it. Like, whatever you think of Tommy's, and I'm going to highly recommend that you guys go to hitflix.com, which has a brief interview with Damon Lindelof, specifically Hitfix. I'm sorry, hitfix.com. They have a very Damon Lindelof talking about the rape and how it was handled, and we didn't have time to get into it on the show, but I recommend checking it out because it's very interesting. But I think that was her taking a bit of pleasure for herself that I guess only that upper circle is allowed to. And I think that is going to become, but there's no way but one of the things that Lindelof talks about in a few interviews is that is not the end of that relationship between Meg and Tommy. That is, those two characters are going to have a relationship moving forward, and it's going to get very intense.
Especially if she has his child.
Yeah. That tends to bring two people, maybe not happily together, but it tends to bring them into the same rooms.
Yeah.
All right, and with that, guys, I think that's going to do it for the Leftovers After Show here at AfterBuzz TV. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next week, Steve Kaufmann, where can people keep up with you?
People can keep up with me on Twitter. That's at Steve Kaufmann, Kaufmann. And they can find me right here, right now, because I know Roxy was waiting for me to say that.
I love it. You guys can find me everywhere at Roxy Striar.
And I'm Kelly McInerney. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at HollyWeirdo.
And you guys can find me on Twitter at @ZachWilson, and also here at AfterBuzz on a whole bunch of shows. I could list them, but instead I'm going to plug. This is going to be a fun one, guys. If you're a fan of Back to the Future, on Wednesday morning, starting at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we're going to be doing a watch along of the first 2 Back to the Futures as we head up to October 21st, 2015, when Marty McFly and Doc arrived from the future. So join us. It's going to be me, Mark Donica, and Yael Teagle, just talking about Back to the Future for 4 hours. So tune in on the Popcorn Talk, our sister network. Guys, I'm Zach Wilson, and thanks for geeking out with us.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.